Hello and welcome to PondHub with Tim, the new pond playlist. This week I'm doing my first episode about planning a new pond.
Is there really any point in making plans?
As we start to think about putting a new pond in our garden, there are three essential things that we need to think about. We need to make decisions about the size of the pond, the location of the pond, and the construction of the pond. Today, I'm thinking about the size of my new pond. In the old vicarage garden, where the PondHub ponds are based, we have 4 different ponds of different sizes. The smallest is the jungle pond, the next largest is the meadow pond, and then there are the 2 biggest ponds, the top and bottom pond. When deciding the size of a pond, there are a number of factors that come into play. How much space do I have available? How much work do I want to put into it? How much effort do I want to spend looking after it? Now, generally speaking, smaller ponds are a bit less work. They're easier to clear. They're easier to clean leaf litter out of. There are a couple of issues. You have to stay right on top of water quality. You need to think carefully about your planting. Some of the more aggressive pond plants will easily take over a small pond, and you do need to stay on top of keeping them topped up, because water levels will drop quicker in a small pond. But generally speaking, like I say, they are a bit less work than the bigger ones. Garden ponds can range from the very small to the very big. A small, effective micro pond can be less than half a metre across and should probably be not less than 20 centimetres deep, or maybe 20 to 30 centimetres deep. And that can be a perfectly effective garden pond. Others can be metres wide and metres deep. The biggest question for me is, what are the animals that I want in my pond? Now, a small micro pond will do well for a large range of water insects and is perfectly good for frogs. Frogs tend to be quite happy in little ponds and will happily breed in little ponds. If you want to start adding fish, you need to think an awful lot more about the size of your pond. I don't have fish in any of my ponds, but certain fish like koi, for example, require very, very large ponds. Even if you want a quite small number of fish, you're going to need a big pond for koi. I'm not going to be focusing too much on fish because, as I said, all of our ponds are wildlife ponds, but it's a key consideration when you're planning the size of your pond. Other animals like dragonflies, you will get more species of dragonfly in a slightly larger pond. The British Dragonfly Association says, about 2 meters by 2 meters is a good sized pond for dragonflies. And then if you want toads, for example, you might want to think about the depth of your pond. Toads, they will breed in shallower ponds. I've had spawn in our ponds, but they tend to prefer ponds with over a meter's depth in it, sort of 1.25 to 1.5 meters. Now, none of the PondHub ponds that we have currently are deeper anywhere than about half a meter. Half a meter does fine. It does perfectly okay for us. They just need to be deep enough to make sure that they won't freeze solid in the winter, because that will kill everything in the pond. So here we are. I'm thinking about the size of my new pond, and I'm thinking about the animals I want to put in it. Currently, the PondHub ponds support newts, smooth newts and great crested newts, frogs and toads. The frogs seem to like the meadow pond in particular this year, which is really turning into sort of froggy des res #1. The great crested newts seem to prefer the top pond, and the smooth newts definitely dominate in the bottom pond. There's a spread of frogs and toads across those ponds as well. But really, if I had to pick of those species, the one that is probably least thriving in the garden, it would now be toads. We've had toad spawn. It's a less common occurrence, and I certainly see toads in the garden. But really what I'm wanting to do is to create a pond which is great for the toads to breed in. So with my new pond, I'm going deep. I'm going to go for something with a depth of about 1.25 meters. This in itself will present a number of challenges, largely oxygenation at depth. But I'll be dealing with that when I come round to construction. In the next episode, I'm going to be thinking about where I locate my new deep toad pond.